It was late autumn when I stumbled upon the map. I had been browsing the dark web out of sheer curiosity, drawn in by tales of hidden secrets and the macabre. As I navigated through the layers of encrypted forums and shadowy chat rooms, I found an unassuming post titled Missing Persons Map. Intrigued, I clicked on it, unaware that my life was about to take a terrifying turn. The map was a digital mosaic of pins scattered across the United States, each one representing a location where a person had gone missing. The details were chilling: names, dates, and brief descriptions of each case. My heart raced as I scrolled through the entries, reading about hikers lost in national parks, children disappearing from their homes, and adults vanishing without a trace. Each pin seemed to pulse with a dark energy, whispering stories of despair and unanswered questions. One particular pin caught my eye: a hiker named Sarah Mitchell, who had disappeared 2 years prior in the dense woods of Redwood National Park. The post accompanying her pin described her as an adventurous spirit who loved exploring nature alone. Friends had reported her missing after she failed to return from a weekend trip. Despite extensive searches, no trace of her was ever found. Curiosity piqued, I decided to dig deeper. I found forums dedicated to Sarah's case where fellow hikers shared their theories about what might have happened to her. Some speculated that she had fallen into a ravine, others believed she had encountered something sinister in the woods. The more I read, the more obsessed I became with her story. That weekend, I made an impulsive decision: I would visit Redwood National Park myself. Armed with the map from the dark web and my camera, I set out on what would become a haunting journey. As I drove toward the park, my mind raced with thoughts of Sarah and the eerie stories surrounding her disappearance. Upon arriving at Redwood National Park, the towering trees loomed overhead like ancient sentinels guarding their secrets. The air was crisp and filled with the earthy scent of pine needles. I parked my car at the trailhead marked on the map where Sarah had last been seen and took a deep breath, feeling both exhilarated and uneasy. The trail was well marked but quickly became overgrown as I ventured deeper into the forest. The sunlight filtered through the leaves in dappled patterns, creating an ethereal atmosphere that felt both beautiful and foreboding. As I hiked further in, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I reached a clearing that matched the description from the map, a place where Sarah was last known to have taken photos before she vanished. It was stunningly serene. A small creek trickled nearby while vibrant ferns swayed gently in the breeze. But as I set up my camera to capture the moment, an unsettling chill crept down my spine. Suddenly, my phone buzzed in my pocket, a notification from an anonymous user on a dark web forum. "Don't go too far," it read ominously. My heart raced. How did they know where I was? Was someone watching me? I dismissed it as a prank, but felt an overwhelming urge to leave this spot. As I turned to retrace my steps back to the trailhead, something caught my eye: a flash of red fabric tangled in some underbrush nearby. My heart pounded as I approached it cautiously. It was a piece of clothing, a jacket similar to what Sarah had been wearing when she disappeared. Panic surged through me as I realized how close I might be to uncovering something terrible. Just then, a rustling sound echoed behind me. My instincts kicked in as I spun around, ready to confront whatever lurked in the shadows. But there was nothing, only trees standing silently like witnesses to my growing dread. I took a few steps back toward the trail when suddenly my foot slipped on wet leaves, sending me tumbling down a small incline into thick brush. As I struggled to regain my footing, panic set in. This wasn't just an accident, it felt deliberate. When I finally stood up and brushed off dirt and leaves, something caught my attention again: another pin on the map glowing faintly on my phone screen. It showed another location nearby marked with red, a place labeled simply "Caution, do not enter." Curiosity battled with fear as I contemplated following its direction. But before I could make up my mind, a voice echoed through the trees, a soft whisper that sent shivers down my spine. "Help me." It sounded like Sarah's voice, but distorted by pain and desperation. My heart raced as dread washed over me. This couldn't be real. I stood frozen for what felt like an eternity until instinct kicked in again. I turned and ran back toward the trailhead without looking back. The whispers followed me through the trees as if they were alive, urging me to return. When I finally burst out onto the main trail and reached my car, breathless and trembling, reality hit me hard. I had come seeking answers but found only terror instead. As I drove away from Redwood National Park, glancing nervously at my rearview mirror as if expecting someone or something to follow me out of those woods. Little did I know that this was just the beginning of an obsession that would lead me deeper into darkness than I'd ever imagined. This segment sets up an engaging story filled with suspense and mystery, while introducing elements that can be explored further in subsequent parts of your video series. After my harrowing experience at Redwood National Park, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I had stumbled upon something far more sinister than I had anticipated. The whispers, the clothing, everything felt like a warning. Yet, my curiosity was insatiable. I found myself drawn back to the dark web, searching for more stories, more mysteries to unravel. That's when I came across a thread about a small town in the Midwest called Willow Creek. The post detailed an unsettling pattern of disappearances that spanned decades. It began with a single pin on the map, representing a young girl who vanished in 1985. As I scrolled through the comments, I learned that over the years, 10 more people had gone missing under similar circumstances, all last seen near a particular stretch of road just outside town. The locals had their theories. Some believed it was the work of a serial killer, others whispered about a curse that had befallen Willow Creek after a tragic accident involving a school bus full of children. The townsfolk were tight-lipped, and outsiders were often met with suspicion. But what intrigued me most was how the map revealed connections between these disappearances. Each pin seemed to form a web that pointed toward a central location, an abandoned farmhouse at the edge of town. Determined to uncover the truth, I decided to visit Willow Creek. The drive took several hours, and as I approached the town, I felt an unsettling sense of foreboding wash over me. The landscape changed from sprawling highways to narrow backroads flanked by dense woods that seemed to close in around me. When I finally arrived, it was as if time had stood still. Old buildings lined the main street, their paint peeling and windows boarded up. I parked my car and took a deep breath, steeling myself for what lay ahead. My first stop was the local diner, a small establishment called Maggie's Place. As soon as I walked in, I felt all eyes on me. The few patrons scattered around the diner paused their conversations and turned to look at me with a mix of curiosity and wariness. I approached the counter where an older woman with silver hair stood wiping down the surface. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone friendly but cautious. "I'm just passing through," I replied, trying to sound casual. "I heard about some disappearances in town." Her expression shifted slightly, and she glanced around as if checking for eavesdroppers. "You should be careful talking about that," she said quietly. "People here don't like to discuss it." "Why not?" I pressed gently. "Because it brings up old wounds," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, "and some folks believe it's better left alone." Intrigued, but sensing her reluctance to share more, I decided to change tactics. "Do you know anything about the old farmhouse on Maple Road?" Her eyes widened slightly before she quickly composed herself. "That place is dangerous," she said firmly. "Stay away from there." "Why? What happened?" She hesitated before answering, glancing at the other patrons who were now listening intently. "It's just, people have gone missing near there. It's not safe for outsiders." I thanked her and left Maggie's Place with more questions than answers. The farmhouse loomed large in my mind. It was where all the threads seemed to lead. As dusk began to settle over Willow Creek, I decided to check it out despite the warnings. Driving down Maple Road felt like entering another world. Trees arched overhead like skeletal fingers clutching at the sky. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced ominously along the roadside. After several minutes of driving, I spotted it. The farmhouse stood isolated at the end of a long gravel driveway, its windows dark and uninviting. I parked my car and stepped out into the cool evening air, heart pounding in my chest as I approached the house. The structure was dilapidated, paint peeled from wooden boards, and weeds choked what was once a vibrant garden. A sense of dread settled over me as I reached for my flashlight and stepped onto the creaking porch. The front door hung ajar, as if inviting me inside or warning me away. Taking a deep breath, I pushed it open and stepped into darkness. The air inside was stale and heavy, with dust beams of moonlight filtered through broken windows, illuminating fragments of furniture draped in white sheets like ghosts waiting for release. As I explored room by room, unease gnawed at me. Every creak of floorboards echoed like whispers in my ears. In one room I found remnants of family life, old photographs scattered across a dusty table, children smiling in sepia tones frozen in time. But as I looked closer at one photo depicting a family standing outside this very house, something struck me. The mother bore an uncanny resemblance to Sarah Mitchell. My heart raced as connections began to form in my mind. What if Sarah had come here? What if she wasn't just another victim but part of something much larger? Just then, My phone buzzed again, a notification from that same dark web forum where I'd first discovered Sarah's case. Look closer, it read ominously. Panic surged through me as I realized how deep this web truly went. There were layers upon layers of secrets hidden within Willow Creek, and perhaps even beyond it. Suddenly feeling vulnerable in this decaying house filled with memories best left undisturbed, I decided it was time to leave. But as I turned to exit, something caught my eye, a trapdoor partially hidden beneath an old rug in what appeared to be a living room. My curiosity piqued, despite my better judgment, what lay beneath. Hesitating only for a moment before my instincts kicked in again, I pulled up on the rug and opened the trapdoor slowly. A musty smell wafted up from below as darkness yawned wide beneath me, an unfinished basement filled with shadows that seemed alive with possibility or danger. Grabbing my flashlight tightly, I descended cautiously into what felt like an abyss. The basement was cluttered with debris, old furniture stacked haphazardly against walls covered in peeling paint, but what drew my attention was a series of wooden crates piled against one corner marked with strange symbols etched into their surfaces. As I approached them cautiously, my flashlight beam illuminated something startling. Newspaper clippings taped haphazardly inside one crate detailing each disappearance linked to Willow Creek over decades. Sarah Mitchell among them, alongside photos of her smiling face alongside others who had vanished without explanation. My heart raced as realization dawned. This farmhouse wasn't just abandoned, it had been used as some sort of storage for secrets too dark for daylight exposure. Each clipping told stories long buried beneath layers of dust and neglect. Each name represented lives lost or forgotten altogether by those who should have cared most. Suddenly overwhelmed by fear and urgency, I needed to get out before someone discovered me here. But just as I turned back toward the stairs leading up into daylight above, a noise echoed behind me, a soft thud, followed by whispers rising like smoke curling through shadows surrounding me. "Help us." The voices were faint yet unmistakable. They called out from somewhere deeper within those walls, a chorus of lost souls trapped between worlds begging for release. My pulse quickened as panic surged anew. This wasn't just about uncovering mysteries anymore, it was about survival. I bolted toward the stairs but stumbled over debris scattered across floors slick with age-old grime, my heart racing as whispers grew louder around me, urging me forward into darkness rather than retreating back toward safety above. Just when it felt like despair would swallow me whole, a surge of adrenaline propelled me upward. I burst through that trapdoor into fresh air outside where moonlight bathed everything in silvery light. Gasping for breath, while shaking off remnants, fear clinging tightly, I sprinted toward my car parked nearby, praying no one followed behind. Once inside, locked doors shielding me from whatever lurked beyond, I fumbled for keys, trembling hands barely able to grasp them. Finally, starting engine roaring back to life, I sped away from Willow Creek, leaving behind echoes, haunting memories fading into night behind. But even as miles stretched between us, the whispers lingered, still echoing hauntingly within thoughts, reminding me there were truths waiting patiently beneath surface, waiting for someone brave enough or foolish enough to uncover them. This segment continues building suspense while exploring deeper connections between missing persons cases and setting up further intrigue for subsequent parts of your video series. After my unsettling experiences in Willow Creek, I thought I had seen the worst that the dark web and its secrets could offer. But as I drove away from that cursed town, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being drawn into something much larger, something that connected all these disappearances. The map I had found seemed to pulse with a life of its own, guiding me toward yet another mystery waiting to be unraveled. Back at home, I spent hours poring over the map again, tracing the lines connecting each pin. One location stood out among the rest. A pin marked the hollow situated in an urban area known for its high crime rates and dark history. The hollow was notorious for its abandoned buildings and stories of people vanishing without a trace. It was said to be haunted by the spirits of those who had disappeared, and locals avoided it like the plague. Curiosity gnawed at me. What if this place held the key to understanding everything? What if it was where all these stories converged? I couldn't resist. I packed my gear, my camera, flashlight, and notebook, and set off toward the hollow. As I drove through the city, the landscape changed from suburban comfort to urban decay. Graffiti-covered walls loomed over me like sentinels of despair, and shadows danced in alleyways where light dared not tread. The air felt thick with tension, as if the very ground beneath me was steeped in stories of loss and sorrow. When I arrived at the hollow, a chill ran down my spine. The area was eerily quiet, save for the distant sound of sirens echoing through the night. Abandoned buildings lined the streets like forgotten monuments to a past long gone. I parked my car and stepped out, feeling an overwhelming sense of foreboding wash over me. The first building I approached was an old textile factory, its windows shattered and walls covered in layers of peeling paint. As I entered, my flashlight beam illuminated dust motes swirling in the air like lost souls searching for escape. The floor creaked beneath my feet as I ventured deeper into the darkness. Each room told a story. Rusty machinery lay dormant, remnants of lives once filled with purpose now reduced to decay. But it was in one of the back rooms that I found something that made my heart race, a series of photographs pinned to a bulletin board. They depicted missing persons from the hollow faces frozen in time, each one marked with a date and a brief description of their last known whereabouts. Among them was Sarah Mitchell's photo again, alongside others who had vanished under similar circumstances, young adults who had come to this area seeking opportunity or adventure, but had instead met their fate in its shadows. As I studied each face, a cold breeze swept through the room, causing me to shiver involuntarily. It felt as if those lost souls were watching me, urging me to uncover their stories. Just then, my phone buzzed again, a notification from that dark web forum. "Find us," it read simply. Panic surged through me as realization dawned. Someone knew where I was and what I was doing. A sense of urgency propelled me forward. I needed to find answers before it was too late. I left the factory and wandered deeper into the hollow, where graffiti-covered walls whispered tales of despair and urban legends long forgotten. One legend stood out, a tale about the Watcher, a figure said to haunt these streets at night, preying on those who dared to explore alone. Locals claimed he could manipulate shadows and lure unsuspecting victims into his grasp. As dusk fell, shadows lengthened around me, and every sound seemed amplified: the rustle of leaves, distant sirens, even my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. My flashlight flickered ominously, as if warning me against venturing further into darkness. I stumbled upon an old church standing defiantly against decay. Its steeple towered above me like a guardian keeping watch over lost souls. Curiosity piqued again, I stepped inside cautiously. Dust motes danced in beams of moonlight filtering through stained glass windows, depicting scenes of hope amidst despair. But what caught my attention most was an altar adorned with candles, some still flickering while others lay extinguished like forgotten prayers. Scattered around were offerings left by those seeking solace or closure for their missing loved ones, a tattered teddy bear here, a bouquet of wilted flowers there. As I knelt down to examine them more closely, a sudden noise broke through the silence, a soft whisper echoing behind me, "Help us." I spun around but saw nothing except shadows shifting in corners where light dared not reach. My pulse quickened. This couldn't be happening again. It felt as though something malevolent lurked just beyond my vision, waiting for me to let my guard down before striking. Determined not to succumb to fear, I stood up and moved toward an exit leading outside when suddenly everything changed. The air grew thick with tension, as if charged with electricity. Shadows danced wildly around me while whispers crescendoed into frantic cries begging for release. "Help us. Find us." I bolted toward the door but stumbled over debris scattered across floors slick with age-old grime, my heart racing as whispers grew louder around me, urging me forward into darkness rather than retreating back toward safety above. Just when it felt like despair would swallow me whole, a surge of adrenaline propelled me upward. I burst through that door into fresh air outside where moonlight bathed everything in silvery light. Gasping for breath while shaking off remnants, fear clinging tightly, I sprinted toward my car parked nearby, praying no one followed behind. Once inside, locked doors shielding me from whatever lurked beyond, I fumbled for keys, trembling hands barely able to grasp them. Finally, starting engine roaring back to life, I sped away from the hollow, leaving behind echoes, haunting memories, fading into night behind. But even as miles stretched between us, the whispers lingered, still echoing hauntingly within thoughts, reminding me there were truths waiting patiently beneath surface, waiting for someone brave enough or foolish enough to uncover them. As days turned into weeks after returning home, I became consumed by these mysteries, each case intertwined like threads woven together, forming tapestry rich with sorrow yet begging for resolution. Nights were spent researching online, digging deeper into dark corners, searching for clues, connecting dots between missing persons cases across regions. One night, while scrolling through forums, I stumbled upon an obscure post detailing sightings reported near Willow Creek. Locals claimed they'd seen shadows moving among trees at dusk, resembling figures lost between worlds. My heart raced at possibility. Could it be connected? I began compiling information from various sources, stories shared by families still searching for answers, each name etched permanently into memory, fueling determination within. But just when hope began rising like dawn breaking over horizon, a chilling message appeared on screen. Stop looking. Lie. My breath caught in throat. Realization hit hard. It wasn't just about uncovering truth anymore. It had become personal. Someone wanted silence enforced upon those seeking answers, someone willing to do whatever necessary to prevent discovery. Fear threatened, paralyzed, but resolve surged stronger than ever. I couldn't let fear dictate actions. With renewed purpose igniting fire deep within soul, I decided then there would be no turning back until every last thread unraveled, leading toward truth hidden beneath layers, darkness shrouding lives lost forevermore. This segment continues building suspense while exploring urban legends tied to missing persons cases, and sets up further intrigue for potential conclusions or revelations in subsequent parts of your video series.